Sometimes, all it takes is silence. No arguments, no dramatic exits, no accusations, just the quiet decision to step back, to breathe, to reclaim a space that was once yours. And yet, in certain relationships, this simple choice can unleash chaos. The other person doesn't just notice your absence, they collapse into it. Panic, desperation, anger, even rage. You didn't betray them, you didn't scream, you didn't hurt anyone, you just withdrew. But what collapses in that moment isn't just the relationship, it's an invisible structure they built with you at the center. You weren't just a partner, a friend, or a companion. You were something else entirely. A role, a projection, a lifeline, and your departure pulled a thread that unraveled everything they thought kept them intact. This reaction, so disproportionate and so intense, often defies logic. It's not rational, it's deeply psychic. In certain bonds, especially those formed under unconscious pressure, you stop being perceived as an individual and become a symbol, a placeholder for something deeply missing within the other. They don't see you as you. They see what you represent. You become the protector they never had, the nurturer they longed for, the mirror that reflects a self they can't otherwise validate. And so, when you step away, you don't just walk out. You pull the rug from under an entire psychic construct. What falls isn't just affection, it's a foundation. Throughout this video, we'll break down this phenomenon in depth. We'll explore the mechanics of projection in relationships, how one person can unconsciously assign you a role you never agreed to play. We'll analyze how emotional dependency forms through early experiences of attachment and unpredictability, and we'll uncover why, sometimes, love isn't what holds people together. It's fear. Fear of the void. Fear of the self. Fear of facing the mirror without you standing in it. So if you've ever felt crushed by guilt for stepping away, if you've ever been called selfish simply for choosing peace, if you've ever felt like your presence was the glue holding someone else's emotional world together, then this video is for you. Let's begin with the idea of projection. In many relationships, we aren't actually relating to each other. We're relating to our images of each other. These images aren't born from the present, but from the past. They are constructed out of memories, longings, losses, unmet needs. We see what we want to see, what we fear to see, and most dangerously, what we refuse to see in ourselves. That's why, in certain emotional dynamics, you find yourself cast into roles. Without ever asking for it, you become the fixer, the emotional healer, the endlessly patient listener, or in darker cases, the villain, the abandoner, the one who never gives enough. These aren't titles given out of cruelty. They are unconscious assignments. The other needs you to be something, so they make you that thing. But what happens when you stop playing the role? What happens when you reclaim your voice, your space, your right to no longer be who they expect? The fragile illusion begins to fracture, because it wasn't you holding things together, it was the symbol you embodied. When that symbol disappears, the person who depended on it often spirals, not because they miss you, but because they miss the emotional function you served. This is where the foundation cracks. This is when you see panic, rage, blame, emotional pleas that sound like love but are born from fear. You changed. You abandoned me. You're all I had. But these aren't the words of someone seeing you clearly. These are the cries of someone watching their psychic scaffold collapse. And beneath all of it is a truth most people never speak. Some people don't love you. They depend on you to survive emotionally. This dependency doesn't begin in adulthood. It begins much earlier. From the moment we're born, we begin forming patterns around closeness, comfort, and fear. If the people responsible for our care were inconsistent, sometimes present, sometimes not, then our nervous system wires itself for anxiety. We grow up feeling that love is unstable, that affection can disappear, that we must perform to be safe. And as adults, we carry this into our relationships. People who carry anxious attachment don't experience love with calm, they experience it with urgency. They don't just want your presence, they need it to feel whole, to feel stable, to breathe. And if you've ever been in a relationship with someone who carries this pattern, you may have felt this need. The way your presence was like medicine, the way your absence even for a day felt like betrayal, the way silence wasn't just silence, it was interpreted as punishment, abandonment, rejection. In these dynamics, you stop being a partner and become a regulator. Your presence regulates their chaos, your consistency calms their storm, you become a surrogate for what they never developed, a solid sense of self. This is not love, this is survival dressed up as love. And that is why when you step back, the reaction is so intense. You didn't just leave, you triggered an early wound, the terror of abandonment that traces back to childhood. In that moment, they aren't reacting to you. They're reacting to every caregiver that disappeared, every moment they cried and no one came, every emotional rupture that taught them that closeness is conditional and fragile. This is what makes emotional autonomy so threatening in these relationships. When you begin to set boundaries, when you say, "I need space," or "this doesn't work for me," what the other hears is, "You're not worthy of love." Their nervous system goes into alarm mode, and they try to pull you back, not always out of malice, but out of survival instinct. They may plead, guilt trip, accuse, cry, rage. They may say you're the only person who ever made them feel safe. They may say they can't live without you, but the truth is, they're not fighting for the relationship. They're fighting for the structure you upheld inside them. This kind of emotional dependency becomes especially dangerous when it's fused with control. Because once someone assigns you the role of emotional savior, they begin to expect you to stay in that role forever. Any deviation from that script feels like betrayal, and slowly, without realizing it, the bond becomes a prison. You're no longer allowed to change, to grow, to want something else, because your change threatens their stability. This is when manipulation begins, not always consciously but always strategically. You might notice how your autonomy is punished, how your silence is met with blame, how your no is interpreted as abandonment. You may be called selfish simply for putting yourself first. In truth, what they're trying to do is restore control. They are trying to return you to the role they created for you, because in that role they felt safe. And this is why the collapse feels so catastrophic when you finally step away for good. You are not just walking out of a relationship, you are tearing away the emotional scaffolding the other person was leaning on to feel whole. And for someone who has never fully developed a sense of self, that loss doesn't feel like a goodbye, it feels like annihilation. In their mind, it's not you left, it's you destroyed me. And this brings us to one of the hardest truths you will ever face when untangling from a relationship like this. You were never just you. You were a role, a projection, a shield, a surrogate self. And when you stop playing that role, the other person is left face to face with the very void they spent a lifetime avoiding, the emptiness, the lack, the part of themselves that they hoped you would complete. But here's the truth, that void was never yours to fill. The pain they feel isn't your fault. It was there long before you arrived. Your presence just made it bearable. Your absence brings it to the surface. You didn't cause it, you revealed it, and this revelation can be transformative if the person chooses to face it. For some, your departure is the beginning of a deeper journey, a psychic reckoning, a painful awakening to the truth. No one else can give you what you refuse to give yourself. But not everyone takes that path. Some will try to pull you back, not because they love you, but because they want to avoid the mirror you left behind. That mirror is the hardest thing in the world to face. Because it shows the real wound, it reveals the dependency, the fear, the unresolved grief. It strips away the illusion that someone else can complete us and forces us to ask, who am I without the one I leaned on? And this question is the beginning of individuation. It is the process of becoming yourself, not a reflection of others' needs, not a character in someone else's story, but a full, whole, sovereign being. And the first step of that process is often rupture, stepping away, saying no, choosing your truth even when others accuse you of cruelty. Individuation requires that you confront the roles you were assigned and reject them, that you refuse to carry what isn't yours, that you allow others to collapse if that's what their growth demands. It is not your job to protect people from their own evolution. Yes, they will call you cold. Yes, they will say you broke something, but what you actually broke was the illusion. And sometimes, breaking the illusion is the most loving thing you can do, not for them, but for yourself, because you didn't come into this world to be anyone's emotional crutch. You didn't come here to fill roles, to maintain peace at the cost of your soul, to be loved only as long as you sacrifice your autonomy. You came to be whole, to be real, to be free, and if that freedom costs you relationships that were built on dependency, then that is not loss. That is liberation. So if this resonates with you, if you've ever felt the weight of carrying someone else's emotional survival, if you've ever been made to feel guilty for stepping into your truth, say it to yourself right now. I choose to be whole, not perfect, not pleasing, not everything to everyone, whole. This is not the end of your story. This is the beginning of your return to self. When you step away from a relationship that has become a mirror for someone else's needs, you inadvertently hold up a mirror to yourself. In the silence that follows, you may begin to hear your own thoughts more clearly, to feel your own emotions more deeply. This is the beginning of self-discovery, a journey inward that requires courage and honesty. It's a process of peeling back the layers of roles and expectations that have been imposed upon you, to uncover the authentic self that lies beneath. The challenge of autonomy is not merely the act of being alone. It's the state of being self-directed, of making choices that align with your true self. In relationships where you've been cast into a role, autonomy can feel like rebellion. It challenges the status quo and threatens the delicate balance that has been maintained. Yet, without autonomy, there can be no true connection, only dependency masquerading as love. The fear of emptiness for those who have relied on you to fill their emotional voids, your absence can feel like a descent into emptiness. This fear is not about losing you as a person, but about confronting the emptiness that has always existed within them. It's a fear that can lead to desperation, to attempts to pull you back into the role you once played. But it's also an opportunity for them to face their own inner world and begin the work of self-healing. The role of establishing boundaries is an act of self-respect. It's a declaration that your needs, feelings, and desires are valid. In relationships where boundaries have been blurred or non-existent, setting them can be met with resistance. Yet, boundaries are essential for healthy relationships. They allow for individuality within connection, for closeness without enmeshment. The journey of healing from relationships that have been defined by projection and dependency is a journey. It involves grieving not just the loss of the relationship, but the loss of the role you played. It requires acknowledging the ways in which you may have contributed to the dynamic, whether through people, pleasing, avoidance, or fear of conflict. Healing is not linear, it ebbs and flows, but with each step you move closer to wholeness. The emergence of the true self. As you heal, you begin to reconnect with parts of yourself that were suppressed or ignored. You may rediscover passions, interests, and values that were sidelined. This is the emergence of the true self, the part of you that exists beyond roles and expectations. Embracing this self requires letting go of the need for external validation and trusting your own inner guidance. The power of self-compassion throughout this journey. Self-compassion is your ally. It's the gentle voice that reminds you that it's okay to make mistakes, to feel pain, to be human. Self-compassion allows you to hold space for your own healing, to offer yourself the kindness you may have extended to others, but withheld from yourself. The possibility of new connections. As you become more aligned with your true self, you open the door to new connections, relationships that are based on mutual respect, authenticity, and interdependence rather than codependency. These relationships may not be free of challenges, but they offer the possibility of growth and genuine connection. The ongoing process of individuation is not a destination, but an ongoing process. It's the continual unfolding of the self, the integration of the conscious and unconscious, the balance of opposites within. It's a journey that requires vigilance, reflection, and a commitment to living authentically. The invitation to others. By choosing to live authentically, you extend an invitation to others to do the same. Your presence becomes a beacon for those who are ready to embark on their own journey of self-discovery. You become a mirror not of their projections, but of their potential.